My child, stop what you are doing, just for a moment. Be still, because what is about to reach your ears in the next few minutes was not placed in your path by accident. You did not find this by chance. You did not stumble here through some random turn of events. Heaven arranged this moment. Long before your eyes opened this morning, long before your feet touched the floor and the weight of your days pressed itself back against your chest, this message was already waiting for you. And that alone should tell you something. That alone should make you pause. Because the God who created the stars by speaking them into existence, the God who formed the mountains with his hands and breathed life into every soul that has ever walked this earth, that God took the time to arrange this exact moment. For you, not for a crowd, not for a category of people. For you, the one reading these words, the one whose heart has been carrying more than anyone around you knows. If you have ever whispered a prayer into the dark and wondered whether anyone was listening, I need you to hear this now. Your prayers were received, every single one. Heaven has been trying to reach you. And today, your season is changing. You may not feel it yet. Change rarely announces itself in ways we can see right away. But in the spiritual realm, something has already shifted. A declaration was made. Your name was spoken before heaven. And the message that was released on your behalf was one of breakthrough, of restoration, of turning. So stay with this. Stay until the very last word. Because this message may explain everything you have been feeling lately, that restless ache in your chest, that sense that something is about to move, that quiet but persistent knowing that you are standing on the edge of something new. You are not imagining it. Heaven is confirming it. Something happened in the spiritual realm recently that directly concerns the trajectory of your life. And if you have been sensing a stirring, an unusual awareness, an anticipation you cannot quite name, that is your spirit responding to what God is already doing on your behalf. The invitation today is simple. Stay, listen, receive, and let what is meant for you find you without resistance. There is a reason this landed in front of you today, and not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. God is a God of precision. He does not operate on guesswork or approximation. He knew exactly what you were carrying this morning when you woke up. He knew what question was pressing hardest against the inside of your chest. He knew which fear had kept you awake the night before, and he orchestrated this moment, this specific message, this specific wording, this specific pause in your day to speak directly into that place. So when you feel a resonance as you read these words, when something inside you says, yes, that is not coincidence, that is recognition. That is the voice of heaven finding the part of your spirit that has been waiting, sometimes without even knowing it was waiting, to hear something true. Pay attention to that recognition. Let it anchor you, because what God is about to do in your life will require you to be anchored. Millions of people passed this by. Millions moved on without pausing, without slowing down long enough to hear what God was trying to say to them today. But you stayed, and that is not a small thing. The fact that you are still here, still reading, still willing to listen, that speaks to something deep inside you that has not been extinguished, no matter how many hard seasons you have walked through. There is still a flame in you. There is still something that reaches upward, even when everything around you has been pressing you down. God did not pull you here by accident. He pulled you here because He has something specific to say to you, something that your soul has been starving to hear. He pulled you here because you have been under an attack you may not have fully understood, a spiritual pressure working against your peace, against your clarity, against your sense of purpose. And today, that assignment against your life is being interrupted. You were chosen before you were born. Your purpose was written before you took your first breath. And the enemy has known that. The enemy has always known that. That is precisely why there has been so much resistance. Chosen people face targeted opposition. The greater your calling, the more deliberate the interference. But God allowed you to see this today because He wants you to understand that the opposition you have faced was never proof that you were forsaken. It was proof that you matter. You do not send armies to destroy something that has no value. The resistance is the evidence of the calling. You were never supposed to walk this road easily. Easy roads are for people with easy destinations. But the place God is taking you, the territory He has marked out for your life, the depth of the impact He has designed for your story, that kind of destination requires a different kind of journey. It requires a road that builds strength rather than coasting on it. It requires seasons of difficulty that hollow out the parts of you that would not have served the person you are becoming. It requires you to discover what you are made of in the fire before you are handed the authority that comes out of it. You were never supposed to have it easy. And looking back, you will understand that the resistance was a mercy, that the difficulty was a design, that everything that felt like it was working against you was actually working in you, building the very things your destiny requires you to carry. Think about the times you almost gave up. Think about the moments you sat alone and genuinely did not know how you were going to keep going. Those moments were real. The pain was real. The exhaustion was real. But heaven would not let you quit. Something kept you here. Something kept one foot moving in front of the other even when your heart had no strength left to believe. That something was not luck. That something was not willpower. That something was not simply your own stubborn refusal to surrender, though God honors that stubbornness too. That something was God holding you, sustaining you, keeping your candle from going out even in the middle of the fiercest wind. You survived seasons that should have ended you. You are still standing, and the enemy thought he had finished you more than once, but here you are still breathing, still listening, still willing to believe that something good might still be waiting for you on the other side of this. Heaven celebrated every time you got back up, and heaven is celebrating again right now, because you chose to stay, chose to listen, chose to believe for one more moment that the God who made you has not abandoned the plans he made for you. God saw every tear. He saw the ones you cried in the bathroom with the door locked because you did not want anyone to hear you fall apart. He saw the ones that came without warning in the car, when a song played and something inside you just broke open. He saw the ones you held back because you had to be strong for everyone else, because there was no one around to be strong for you. He saw those too, the tears you swallowed instead of shed, the grief you compressed into silence because the world needed you to be composed when you were anything but. Every single one of those tears was collected. Not one drop fell unnoticed. Not one silent cry went unheard. There is a God who sees what no human eye can see, who knows what no human ear has ever been told, and he has been watching over you with a tenderness that goes beyond anything you have ever experienced from another person. He knows how tired your soul is. He knows that the face you show the world and the face you have in your most private moments are often two very different things. He knows you smile when you do not feel like smiling. He knows you say you are fine when you are not fine at all. He knows you have carried grief that never fully left, that some mornings you wake up and the sadness is just there, already waiting for you before the day has even begun. And he has never judged you for that. He has never grown impatient with your pain or tired of your questions. He has been present in every moment of your suffering, even especially in the moments when you could not feel him at all. Those nights at 3 a.m, when your mind would not be quiet, when anxiety wrapped itself around your thoughts like a fog you could not see through. He was there. Those moments when you prayed and heard nothing back, when the silence felt like rejection, when you asked God where he was and the only answer seemed to be more silence, he was there in that silence too. Sometimes silence is not absence. Sometimes silence is God covering you so completely that you cannot see past his protection. You prayed, he heard, and if the answer did not come the way you expected, it is because the answer he was preparing was bigger than the prayer you knew how to pray. You asked for relief from your situation. He was building your character to sustain a completely different future. You asked for the door in front of you to open. He was preparing to bring you to a door you had not yet seen, a door whose existence you would not have believed if he had shown it to you too early. You carried your burden in the middle of people who could not understand the weight of it, who offered well-meaning words that did not touch the real depth of your pain, who moved on quickly because your pain made them uncomfortable. But God never moved on. He sat with you in every slow, aching, unresolved moment. Nobody knows how tired your soul is, but he does. And he is saying to you today, I see you. I have always seen you. You were never invisible to me. That is not the full story, because heaven saw something in your suffering that you could not see from inside of it. There was a war happening around you that your natural eyes could never have detected. While you were going through your hardest seasons, while confusion surrounded you and fear whispered that everything was falling apart, while you tried to hold your life together with hands that were already trembling, there was a battle being fought on your behalf in the spiritual realm. Angels were dispatched. Forces of darkness were resisted. Assignments that were designed to destroy you were interrupted, redirected, dismantled by a power that answers only to God Himself. You did not see it because the battle was not fought in the visible world. But the effects of it were all around you, the near misses you chalked up to luck, the disasters that came close but did not land, the relationships that could have taken you off course but somehow fell away before they did their full damage, the doors that closed and felt like rejection but were actually God blocking a path that would have led you into something far worse than what you were already facing. The enemy wanted your faith destroyed. He wanted you isolated, confused, convinced that God had forgotten you and that your prayers were nothing more than words disappearing into empty air. He worked methodically against you, through people who misused your trust, through circumstances that seemed to pile on all at once, through the quiet voice in your lowest moments that told you things were never going to change, that you were too broken to be fixed, that it was too late for you to start over. That voice was not the voice of truth. That voice was an assignment, and it lost. Because you are still here, you are still breathing, you are still capable of receiving this word, you are still, against all the odds that were stacked against you in your hardest seasons, sitting in a place where hope is still possible. That is not nothing. That is everything. Because hope is where God works. Hope is the open door that allows heaven to move into the circumstances of your life. And the enemy knew that if he could just close the door of hope permanently, if he could convince you that your situation was irrecoverable and your future was already written in disappointment, then he would not need to fight you anymore. You would fight yourself. But hope survived. Something in you kept it alive, even in its smallest, most fragile form. And that surviving hope is the seed that God is about to water into a harvest beyond anything you have imagined. Hell celebrated too early. The enemy thought he had you. There were moments specific, defining moments when, by every human measure, it looked like you were finished. Like the situation was unrecoverable. Like the damage was permanent, and the losses were irreplaceable, and the version of your life you had once hoped for was simply never going to exist. He celebrated those moments. He declared victory. But God looked at the same moments and saw something entirely different. He saw a vessel being refined. He saw a faith being proven. He saw a testimony being constructed that would one day reach into the lives of others who were sitting in the same darkness you once sat in, who needed to know that someone had survived it and come out the other side. What hurt you was actually saving you. What broke you down was simultaneously building you up in ways that will not become fully visible until you look back from the other side of your breakthrough and understand with perfect clarity why things had to happen the way they did. The delays were not abandonment. The closed doors were not rejection. The silence was not indifference. God was protecting you from hidden dangers you could not have seen coming, redirecting you from paths that looked good on the surface but would have cost you everything underneath. You were never out of His hands. Not for a single second. Not even in your worst moment. And so the waiting made no sense to you. How could it? When you are on the inside of a painful season, when the days are long and the answers are not coming and the people around you seem to be moving forward while you feel like you are standing still, the waiting feels like punishment. It feels like evidence that you did something wrong, that God is distant, that your prayers are broken, but that is not what the waiting was. The waiting was preparation. God was preparing you, not for the version of the blessing you could imagine with your limited sight, but for something so much larger that your current self would not have been able to carry it, would not have been able to steward it, would not have known what to do with it. You thought God abandoned you, but He was building you in secret. The process was invisible because it was happening at the deepest level in your character, in your discernment, in your capacity for empathy and resilience and wisdom that can only be forged through fire. Character always comes before blessing. That is not a punishment. That is mercy. Because a blessing given before character is built rarely stays. It becomes a burden. It exposes weakness instead of highlighting strength. God was not withholding from you. He was protecting the fullness of what He planned to give you by making sure you would be ready to receive it and keep it when it finally arrived. Think of a seed buried under the earth. There is a period where nothing is visible. The ground is dark and cold, and from the outside, it appears that nothing is happening. But underneath, something extraordinary is taking place. Life is organizing itself. Roots are reaching down before anything reaches up. The invisible work happens first. And then, at exactly the right moment, not a day early, not a day late, something breaks through the surface and grows toward the light with a momentum that cannot be stopped. That is what has been happening with you. The underground season felt like nothing was happening, like your efforts were wasted, like your prayers were falling on deaf ears. But God was laying foundations in the dark. He was sending your roots deeper so that when the growth finally became visible, it would be strong enough to survive every storm that came after. He was doing in secret what he knew would one day be celebrated publicly. Your isolation had purpose. Your silence had purpose. Your confusion had purpose. The pain you carried through all of it was not a sign of God's absence. It was the cost of preparation for something that ordinary processes could never produce. Think of the fire that refines gold. The gold does not enjoy the furnace, but it comes out of the furnace as something that could not exist without it. Think of the eagle that is born to soar but must first learn to fly by being pushed out of the comfortable nest and forced to discover what it is already capable of. You are not being punished. You are being prepared, and the preparation is nearly complete. Something has shifted, even if you cannot feel it yet, even if the circumstances around you look exactly the same as they did yesterday. There has been a movement in the spiritual realm that is now beginning to work its way into the natural. Something has been released over your life. The chains that were holding back your breakthrough have been broken. The spiritual blockage that was delaying your harvest has been cleared. Doors that were sealed are beginning to open, not because of what you have done or not done, but because the season has changed, and God is now releasing what He has been preserving for you. The curse is breaking. The weight is lifting. The long season of struggle and striving and going to sleep uncertain and waking up still uncertain is coming to an end, not gradually, decisively. God does not bring change the way the world brings change. He speaks, and what He speaks becomes reality. And He is speaking over your life right now. He is speaking provision into places that have known scarcity for what feels like too long. He is speaking healing into a body that has known sickness and weariness. He is speaking restoration into a heart that has known loss. He is speaking peace into a mind that has known anxiety for so long that peace almost feels foreign, almost feels like something that belongs to other people, something that you gave up expecting for yourself. It belongs to you. It has always belonged to you, and it is on its way. Before this week ends, a sign will appear. Keep your eyes open for it. It may come in the form of an unexpected conversation that opens a door you stopped hoping would ever open. It may come as a message, an encounter that seems coincidental but carries the fingerprints of heaven all over it. It may come quietly, a shift in your inner world, a lifting of the heaviness, a morning where you wake up and something feels different without any obvious reason. Pay attention. God does not waste signs. He sends them at exactly the right moment to confirm that His word over your life is being fulfilled. Financial breakthrough is moving toward you, not eventually, now. The tide is turning on the resources that have been restricted, the opportunities that have been withheld, the harvest that has been delayed past the point where your natural mind could continue believing it was still coming. It is still coming, and it is accelerating. Healing is being released into your body, into your emotional world, into your relationships. Restoration is coming for the things you thought were permanently lost. Unexpected opportunity is being positioned in your path, and it will look different than anything you prayed for because it is better than anything you prayed for. Get ready, not with anxious striving, but with open hands and expectant faith. God is restoring what you lost, not a portion of it, not a pale imitation of it, the fullness of it and more. He restores double. That is a promise that has never expired and never will. The years that were taken from you, the opportunities that slipped away while you were too buried in survival to reach for them, the relationships that broke under the pressure of circumstances that were not entirely anyone's fault, the confidence that eroded under the weight of too many failures. God has not forgotten any of it. He has been keeping account. Every loss has been noted. Every tear has been stored. And now the season of restoration is beginning. What was broken is being rebuilt, stronger this time, more resilient, more beautiful for having been broken and repaired by the hands of God rather than left shattered on the floor. Those years of loss were not wasted years. They produced in you a depth of compassion, a capacity for empathy, a wisdom that comes from having walked through the valley, and come out the other side. You know things now that comfortable people do not know. You carry an understanding of what it costs to keep going, what it takes to hold on to faith in the dark, what it means to love a God you cannot always see or feel. That understanding is not a consolation prize. It is a gift that will make you extraordinarily useful in the lives of everyone who crosses your path from this moment forward. You survived what should have destroyed you. Let that land for a moment. The things you walked through, the losses, the betrayals, the seasons of depression, the days when you genuinely did not know how you would make it another 24 hours, those things would have destroyed someone who was not protected by grace. You are still standing. You are still here. You are still capable of love and hope and reaching for something better. And you are still standing for a reason. Your story is not finished. The enemy tried to end it early, but the author of your story overruled, and nothing that has been written in the painful chapters will be left unredeemed. Every moment of darkness is being worked into the light that is coming. Everything is being rewritten, and the rewrite is better than the original could ever have been. But there is something important you need to hear before the full weight of the breakthrough arrives at your door. There is a warning that comes with this word, and it is one you must take seriously. The enemy attacks hardest right before breakthrough. That is not a metaphor. That is a spiritual law that has proven itself true across every generation, in every story of transformation and redemption that has ever been written. When you are on the edge of your miracle, when the shift is days or weeks or moments away, that is when the opposition becomes most aggressive, most targeted, most personal. He will send old temptations that you thought you had outgrown. He will stir up old memories designed to drag you back into shame or grief or anger you have already been healed from. He will bring back people who belong in your past and dress them up in just enough familiarity to make you think going back would be safe. It is not safe. Do not return to what God already delivered you from. Some doors were closed by God Himself, and going back to pry them open is not courage. It is a trap. Do not go back to the toxic relationships that drained you of everything you had and left you empty. Do not go back to the patterns of self-destruction that you survived. Do not let the voices of doubt that have no business in your future speak louder than the voice of God who has already told you where you are going. Do not doubt at the last moment. Guard your spirit with everything you have in this season. Be deliberate about what you allow into your mind and heart in these days. Stop listening to voices that specialize in shrinking your hope. The critics, the cynics, the people who see your faith as naivety, the voices inside your own head that have made a habit of rehearsing worst-case scenarios. None of them have a seat at the table of what God is doing in your life. This is your final warning before the blessing. Protect it. Steward this season with intentionality. Pray more. Trust deeper. Speak life over what God has promised. Do not sabotage your own miracle by agreeing with the voice of the enemy in the last mile of the race. You have come too far. You have waited too long. You have survived too much to turn back now. Finish well. Cross the threshold. The miracle is just on the other side of this moment. Now listen carefully, because this is the part of this message that your soul has needed to hear more than anything else. Forget the noise of the world for a moment. Forget the pressure and the fear and the unresolved questions and the situations that still do not make sense. Just receive this. Let it come past the defenses you have built up over years of being disappointed by things and people who could not hold the weight of your expectation. Let it in. You are loved, not loved the way people love each other partially, conditionally, with limitations and disappointments woven through every relationship that has ever existed between two human beings. You are loved with the love that existed before creation, the love that looked through time and saw every mistake you would ever make and chose you anyway, the love that has no beginning and no end, the love that is not dependent on your performance or your perfection or your ability to have it all together on any given day. You are loved completely, as you are, right now. In the middle of the mess, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the version of yourself that you are least proud of, that is where the love is. That is exactly where it has always been. You are not forgotten. Say that to yourself and let it be more than words. You are not forgotten. There has never been a moment, not a single second across the whole of your life, when you slipped out of God's awareness, when your name left His memory, when your situation stopped mattering to Him. You have been held in continuous, unbroken, permanent awareness by the creator of the universe. That is not poetry. That is reality. And no matter how forgotten you have felt, no matter how invisible the pain of your private seasons has made you feel, the truth that overrides every feeling is this: you were never forgotten. Not once. Not even close. You are not forgotten now. And you will not be forgotten tomorrow or in any day that follows. You are chosen. Before you were placed in your mother's womb, before your name was given to you, by people who could not yet see what you would become, God looked at the entirety of who you are and chose you for a purpose that only you can fulfill. Nobody else can live the story that is yours to live. Nobody else can reach the people you are specifically designed to reach. Nobody else can carry your particular fingerprint into the world. You are not an accident of existence. You are a deliberate creation, a specific selection, a chosen vessel for something that heaven has been anticipating with great expectation. And that calling does not expire based on your performance. It does not get revoked because of your mistakes. It does not diminish because of how long it has taken for things to come together. You are chosen, and you remain chosen. Your future is protected. Everything that is ahead of you, the people you have not yet met, the opportunities you cannot yet see, the chapters of your story that are still being written, all of it is held in the safekeeping of a God who does not lose things. Your future is not in the hands of chance or circumstance or the decisions of people who do not always choose wisely. Your future is secured by the hands that hold the entire universe together. What He promised you will come to pass. Not because you are perfect, not because you never doubted or never wavered, but because He is faithful, and His faithfulness does not depend on yours. Your future is protected. Walk toward it without fear. Walk toward it with the steady confidence of someone who knows that the path ahead is already lit, even when they cannot see past the next step. God is fighting for you, right now, at this very moment, as you sit with this message and let it sink past the noise and the fear and the weariness. God is fighting for you. He is clearing a path. He is moving pieces into place. He is speaking to hearts that do not even know yet that they are about to play a role in your blessing. He is arranging the details of your breakthrough with the precision of one who sees the end from the beginning and knows exactly where every thread needs to be pulled in order to bring the whole tapestry together. You do not have to fight this battle alone. You were never meant to. The battle belongs to God. Your assignment is to trust, and trust, real trust, the kind that holds steady even when the evidence seems to point in the opposite direction, is the most powerful thing a human being can offer in the face of an impossible situation. God is fighting for you. Let Him. Peace is entering your home. The anxiety that has lived in your walls, the tension that settled into your house like a guest that overstayed its welcome, the heaviness that greeted you at the door when you came home exhausted and needed the one place in your life to be a refuge, it is being evicted. The Prince of Peace is moving into every room, into every corner, into every relationship in your household, into every night that has ever been too long and every morning that started too hard. Peace is coming. Not just the absence of chaos, but the active, present, tangible peace that passes understanding, the kind that makes no logical sense given your circumstances and exists anyway, because it is not manufactured by the mind but given freely by the Spirit of God. Receive it. Let your shoulders come down. Let your breath come from a deeper, calmer place. Peace is entering your home. You no longer have to hold everything together by the sheer force of your own will. He is holding it. You are seen. In a world that rushes past, in a culture that celebrates the spectacular and ignores the quiet faithful, in every moment where you felt overlooked or undervalued or passed over for people who seemed to require far less effort from God than you did, you were seen. Your faithfulness was seen. Your quiet obedience in the moments when no one was watching was seen. Your decision to keep going when everything in you wanted to stop was seen. God does not miss faithfulness. He does not overlook the person who chose to trust Him in the dark. He does not forget the prayers prayed through tears in rooms where no one else witnessed the depth of your devotion. Every act of quiet faith has been recorded, and the reward for that faithfulness is being prepared even now. You are enough. Not when you fix what you think is broken about you. Not when you achieve the version of yourself you have been chasing. Not after the healing is complete, or the breakthrough arrives, or the circumstances finally shift into the shape you have been praying for. You are enough right now, in this exact form, with every scar and every question and every unfinished process still in progress. The God who created you did not make a mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing when he fashioned the particular combination of gifts, wounds, personality, and story that is you, and he has never looked at his creation and wished he had done it differently. You are enough, and from that foundation of enoughness, everything else can be built. You are healed, the places in you that have been wounded, the wounds from childhood that you carried quietly into adulthood because no one ever told you that those things were not your fault, the damage from relationships that should have been safe and were not, the fractures in your sense of worth and belonging and hope. That happened so gradually, you barely noticed, until one day you looked in the mirror and barely recognized the exhausted, hollowed-out version of yourself looking back. They are being touched right now by the hands of the one who heals what no human healer can reach. Not because you earned it, not because you have arrived at some acceptable level of spiritual achievement, but because you are his child, and no parent who truly loves their child can watch them suffer indefinitely without moving to bring healing. He is moving. Receive your healing. Open your hands. Open your heart. Let it in. You are not alone. You have never been alone. In every dark room, in every sleepless night, in every moment when the silence felt absolute, and the weight felt unbearable, and the distance between yourself and any source of comfort felt like a gap too wide to be crossed. You were not alone. The God who spoke light into darkness was in that room with you. The Spirit who comforted the disciples after they lost everything was there with you in your loss. You were surrounded by heaven in your loneliest moments, even when you could not perceive it, even when you would have bet everything you had that you were completely alone. You were not. You are not. And going forward, the awareness of his presence is going to grow, not because he is closer than he was, but because the scales are falling from your eyes and you are beginning to see what has always been there. You are not alone. You are accompanied by love that will never leave, by grace that will never run out, by faithfulness that has stood the test of every century and will not fail in yours. Your story is not over. That is perhaps the most important thing God wants you to carry out of this moment. Whatever chapter you feel like you are stuck in, whatever ending you have been afraid might be closer than you want it to be, whatever version of your future you have quietly let yourself stop believing in because the wait has been so long and the evidence so discouraging, that is not where your story ends. God is still writing, the pen is still in his hand. The pages that are ahead are not blank with despair or sealed with finality. They are filled with the glory of what he has planned, a future and a hope that is real, that is specific, that has your name written at the top of the page. What you have survived has become the setup for what is coming. The pain was not the point. The pain was the prologue, and the prologue is finished. Heaven is still writing your next chapter. Every difficulty you walked through, every night you barely made it through, every prayer you sent up with a trembling voice and uncertain faith, all of it is being woven together by the master storyteller into something that will not just transform your life, but will reach into the lives of the people who are watching your story unfold. You are not just living your testimony. You are becoming someone else's courage by example. Your survival is someone else's permission to keep going. Your breakthrough will be someone else's evidence that God is still working, still faithful, still in the business of turning the impossible into the inevitable. So rise. Stand up inside yourself. Let something shift in the way you carry this day. Because the miracle is not just coming, it is already here, seated in this moment, in this message, in the quiet but unmistakable sense that something in your spirit recognizes the truth in these words. Because the Spirit of God inside you is responding to the voice of the God who loves you beyond measure. If this message found you today, it was not by chance. It was by design, by divine appointment, by the hand of a God who has never stopped thinking about you, never stopped fighting for you, never stopped preparing the ground ahead of you so that your next steps would land on solid ground. Share this word with someone who needs to hear it, because the same God who arranged this moment for you knows exactly who in your life is sitting in the dark right now and needs to be reminded that heaven has not forgotten them either. This message will reach the person who needs it next, and they will find in it the same thing you found: the undeniable, unchangeable, undefeatable love of a God who sees, who knows, who fights, and who wins. And that person who needs it, the one you are thinking of right now, the name that just appeared in your mind, send it to them. Do not wait. Heaven arranged the thought of them in your mind in this very moment for that very reason. Be the messenger. Be the hand of God reaching into someone else's dark moment the way this message reached into yours today. That is how heaven moves in the earth, through willing people, through the smallest acts of courage and care, through someone choosing to say to another human being, I thought of you, and I thought you needed this. Do not underestimate the weight of that gesture. You may never know on this side of eternity what that message means to the person who receives it, what door it opens, what thought it interrupts, what giving up it prevents. Just send it. Be obedient to the nudge. Trust that God knows exactly who needs this word today, and trust that He chose you to carry it to them for a reason. Type Amen if you receive this today, not as a ritual, not as an empty gesture, but as a declaration of agreement with what God has spoken over your life in this moment. Amen means, so be it. It means I receive it. It means I am standing on this promise. It means that despite what I see, despite what I feel, despite the distance between where I am and where this word says I am going, I believe. Type it as an act of faith. Type it as the first step of the new chapter that is beginning right now. Because that is exactly what this moment is, not just the end of a message, but the beginning of a movement in your life that started the moment you chose to stay and listen to what heaven had to say. Your story is not over. Heaven is still writing your next chapter. And your miracle, the one you stopped believing in, the one you set down when it got too heavy to carry, the one you made peace with never receiving because disappointment had become more comfortable than hope, pick it back up, because it is closer than you think. It is closer than it has ever been. And the God who promised it has never broken a promise in all of eternity. He is not about to start with yours. There is something else God wants you to know before you go. Something that is easy to forget when the season is hard and the waiting is long. He has not changed His mind about you. Every promise He has ever spoken over your life, whether through scripture, through a word shared at exactly the right moment, through a dream that lingered past the morning, through a deep and quiet knowing that something greater was intended for your life, none of it has been revoked. None of it has expired. God does not change His mind the way people do. He does not make promises in a moment of compassion and then quietly walk them back when the fulfillment becomes costly. The fulfillment of what He has promised you is not contingent on whether it is convenient. It is not contingent on whether the timeline makes sense to anyone observing from the outside. It is contingent only on His faithfulness. And His faithfulness is the one constant in a world where everything else shifts and moves and disappoints. He has not changed His mind about you. The dream He placed in your heart is still the dream He intends to fulfill. The calling He put on your life has not been handed to someone else because you took too long or failed too many times or spent too many seasons wandering in the wrong direction. He is still committed. He has always been committed. And commitment from God looks like this. He will chase you into your wilderness and bring you back to the path He designed for you, not because He needs your obedience, but because He loves what He made too much to leave it unrealized. He will not stop. He will not give up on you. He has not changed His mind. And because He has not changed His mind, you are permitted, invited, even to change yours. To change your mind about the ending of your story. To change your mind about whether the best chapters are behind you or ahead of you. To change your mind about whether God still has something extraordinary planned for the remainder of your days. Because He does. He does. The best is not behind you. The most impactful relationships, the most meaningful work, the deepest seasons of joy, the most powerful versions of who you are, none of that is in the rearview mirror. It is ahead. It is being assembled. It is closer with every day that passes, and closer still with every day that passes in trust rather than fear. You have been through enough to make you the kind of person whose best days require depth, require history, require the kind of seasoned faith that only comes from having been through the valley and come out the other side. The valley made you ready for what is ahead. And what is ahead is remarkable. God did not bring you through the fire to leave you standing at the edge of the ash wondering if that was all there was. He brought you through the fire because the land on the other side of it is yours. Walk toward it. Believe in it. Receive it. It is yours. Receive this blessing today, spoken over you with the full authority of heaven. May the peace of God that passes all human understanding guard your heart and your mind from this day forward. May the grace of God cover every mistake, every regret, every version of yourself you wish you could go back and do differently. May the provision of God meet every need, every financial shortage, every emotional deficit, every relational gap that has left you feeling incomplete or uncared for. May the healing of God move through every physical place that has known pain and every emotional place that has known damage. May the joy of God return to you, the deep, settled, unshakable joy that does not depend on circumstances, but flows from the unalterable reality that you are loved, you are chosen, you are held, and you are going somewhere extraordinary. May your eyes be opened to see the evidence of God's faithfulness around you in this very season. May your heart be soft enough to receive what He is giving and strong enough to steward it faithfully. May your story inspire others. May your survival be someone else's turning point. May every day from this one forward be a living testimony to the truth that God never wastes a life that is surrendered to Him. This is your blessing. Receive it fully. Carry it forward. And let it be the beginning of the chapter heaven has been writing toward all along. Go now with this. Go with the weight of it and the warmth of it and the strange, quiet certainty that something has shifted in you today, not because of anything dramatic, but because truth, when it lands in the right place, always shifts something. You are not the same person who began reading these words. Something opened, something softened, something that had been held tightly under the pressure of too much uncertainty has released just enough to let the light in. That is the beginning. That is always the beginning. And God will take that beginning and run with it further than you can currently imagine, because He is a God who does not waste openings. He does not ignore the cracked door. He walks through it. He fills the space. He makes His presence known in the very place that the fear and the doubt and the weariness had been living. He has already walked through the door that opened in you today. He is already there. And everything that follows from this moment has the fingerprints of heaven on it. Trust that. Rest in that. And watch what God does next. And that, more than anything else, is the miracle you came here to find. Your miracle was never just the breakthrough you were praying for. It was the transformation that happened in the waiting, the person you became in the valley, the faith that survived the fire, the love that refused to let go even when letting go would have been so much easier. That is the miracle, and it is already yours.